I don't really have a problem with trade radio as a concept, just I think it's too long. Therefore, the topics and the content that comes out of it is just not great sometimes, but one of the interesting things around trade time is the value of a first round draft pick. What is it worth? Now, for different people, that's going to be different things, but considering we're going to have players like Dan Rioli, potentially Dan Houston, Liam Baker, Tom Barras, Bailey Smith, these kind of guys, and potentially more, who knows, that are on the move for first round picks, it's going to be really interesting to assess each team's first selection at the draft and see if they're going to keep it, if they're going to trade it, or if it's at least on the table. So that's the topic of this video, which if you like the video, hit the like button, helps more people see it. If you subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family, you're killing it. And please do that because we are over 3,700, which is absolutely amazing. And I cannot thank you enough for your support. And you get to be involved. The community tab, there's posts, there's polls, there's quizzes. Test your knowledge. And there could be something about that coming soon to the channel, which I can't wait to talk to you about. But anyway, first round picks. Let's talk about them. Adelaide's first pick at pick 4 just cannot be traded for me. It is absolutely off the table. Nada, no, not happening. Now, I can understand that there are going to be some, what if they trade up to West Coast and guarantee themselves Sid Draper is going to be part of the conversation. I can understand that. What if Christian Petrarca's on the table? He's not leaving Victoria, so let's park that. Clayton Oliver, you are going to be able to get if he doesn't end up at Geelong for less than that anyway. So I don't think pick 4 for a player is going to be viable for the Crows. They're going to give up pick 25 for Alex Neil-Bullen. So that is what it is. But there's also a school of thought is trade back. Could you trade back for a couple of picks? Get yourself a midfielder and someone like Alex Dodson. That makes sense to me. But I would rather Adelaide trade back into the draft using their second round pick next year and try and land Dodson that way and keep 4. You guarantee yourself one of Jagger Smith, Finn O'Sullivan, Harvey Langford, so one of those 3, or you get your local kid Sid Draper, or if North Melbourne do take one of those 4, and of course you got your Levi Ashcroft bit in there, you're still getting someone of quality, guys. So if the draft order goes Jagger Smith to Richmond, and then you got North, if everything stayed the same, North take a midfielder, if they take, say, Finn O'Sullivan, right, and then you got, say, Harvey Langford to West Coast, Levi Ashcroft in a bid, bang, Sid's there. You're going to get one of the 4. You just are. You need them. Take one, stay where you are. Brisbane's first pick, pick 18, should be on the table. They need points for Ashcroft and Marshall, and guys like Jackson Pryor and Devon Robertson are going to get them points as well. They're probably going to be able to get 3rd and 4th round selections, and I think Brisbane are going to push pretty hard for anyone that wants to trade for these guys. So Jackson Pryor's got some links to Essendon. Collingwood, I think, is another club that's been interested in him, whereas Devon Robertson to West Coast seems like the worst kept secret 12 months ago, but then he stayed at Brisbane, and then he barely played, and now he could be going to West Coast again. They'll get some points that way. Now, Richmond is obviously the club that's got the points given the picks that they've got, and they will get in the door. Jack Graham's compensation pick is going to be around the mark and will help them get, you know, a selection there. So, like, they're going to have 29, probably 30 with a mid-second round pick as compensation for Graham. So, they're going to have the ability to get there. If I was Melbourne, though, I would be targeting this pick really hard. If not, I would go after a different one, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But Melbourne are going to get pick 25 from the Crows, and they are going to be able to finagle their way up the order to help Brisbane. So, I think Melbourne might be the underrated club there. But for Brisbane, trade it. Get points. Get assets. You're golden. Try and get something for next year as well. Could you get some points this year and a 3rd round selection next year, which you will then be able to on-trade into the 2026 draft for when the best on ground in the under-16s game that's coming through your academy and you're going to get for free? Do that. For the Blues, pick 11, Dan Houston. Look, the fuming, furious, and what was the other word that they used? Arrogant, I think it was, towards the Blues in their negotiation. They're negotiating. This is my frustration with things like trade radio. Not the journos, by the way. Journos that are told things and reporting on it, they're not the problem. They're not the problem. Journos being analysts is a little bit of a problem for me, whereas I like listening to Cal Toomey and Riley Beveridge on Gettable, because that is just the perfect encapsulation of what trade radio should be. Now, I understand Carlton want to keep pick 11 and get Houston. Why not try and do that? Joe Berry as a small forward, if Matty Owis is out the door, is the perfect fit. Toby Travalia will be around that mark. They don't need a midfielder because they're getting Lucas and Ben Camporeale. So that's going to be the play. If you can land Dan Houston, if Carlton can land Dan Houston and Joe Berry, as well as Lucas and Ben Camporeale, they've got a Category B rookie coming through already. Well, that's a win. Why wouldn't they do that? But pick 11's on the table for the Blues. It just is. I'm not 100% confident that it's going to be out the door. But if they're the ones that get Houston, I don't see how they can keep it. I just don't. So it's on the table. Collingwood don't have a first round selection because they traded it out for Lachie Schultz, so that's over with Freo at the moment. So what do they do here? Well, I don't think their first pick is on the table. I don't really think they're going to trade it either, because what are they going to trade it for? They're going to get Harry Perryman without giving up draft capital, so that's a massive tick. I will still put it on the table though, but I think what's even more so on the table from the Pies and what they do need to do is their first round pick next year needs to go into this draft. Needs to. Because the same logic with Brisbane this year, the same logic with Gold Coast with pick 6 with trying to bid on Leo Lombard. When you've got a father-son or an academy kid, your first round pick doesn't mean shit. Get assets for it. Clubs that want to move up, do it. Gold Coast that did it for the Riley Sanders bid. For the bid that ended up being Riley Sanders, I should say. My goodness me. Go and do that. Collingwood, you are going to get the points for Tommy McGuan next year, who looks like he's going to be a top 3, could be the number 1 pick next year. Between him, Willem Dersma, and Dyson Sharp, who all look insane, by the way, you're going to have the points for him. So go get your 2025 first round pick. Go get something else. Go to GWS or someone like that, or Sydney for one of their picks, or Brisbane, but that's going to be harder because they also need points. Go to a team's pick, get it off them, draft a tall forward. Craig McRae, players over picks. You got the player bit right. You've got Harry Perryman. Go get a tall forward. Don't wait for one to want to rock up at your footy club. You ain't winning a second flag with an even older Myercheck and an even older Mason Cox. Oscar Allen's not coming. Ben King is not coming to your doorstep this offseason. Draft one. Harry Armstrong, Jonty Fall, Job Shanahan. Go and get one. Waiting later in the draft could work. There are a couple that I really like. But for crying out loud, go and get a tall forward. Has that got anything to do with the topic? I don't know, but that's Collingwood done. The Bombers, everyone kind of knows where I stand with the Bombers pick. I don't think they can trade it in the slightest. Don't do it. Go get the points for Isaac Keiko in other deals, future assets, bring them in, whatever you want to do. Go into a deficit. I don't give a shit. Do not trade this pick. Now, I think there are only really 3 options for the Bombers at that pick in terms of if they want to solve an on-field problem with that selection. Job Shanahan is the obvious one. He, Nate Caddy, Peter Wright, Kyle Langford, Jake Stringer as a front 5 is really tantalising, but kind of telling Isaac Keiko as an 18-year-old, hey, you're our only pressure forward. Nate Caddy's pretty good at it, but go and do it on your own. I can understand why you might not be a fan of that. Harry Armstrong is the other one if you want to go down the tall forward path, and I completely understand that as a second option. I agree with it. I'm actually going to extend it to 4 because it does make a lot of sense if they want to go the secondary tall forward, so we'll throw Harry in there as well. The other options, which I think are quite delicious, got the big SL. Now, I've had a couple of people in my comments say it's Sam Lawler, so I'm going to go with that, Lawler, but with 2 people correcting me, it would be really weird if you were both in on it, but I want to tell the under-18s commentators to stop saying Layla then. So just a heads up to them. Anywho, not the point. Good ball user, centre forward player. The fit is good. Best talent available, I think is him. I think he's Sam across the board. If you're doing a power rankings of players, I don't think you could put Harry Armstrong or Job Shanahan ahead of Sam at all. So best talent available is him. Shanahan and Armstrong fit really well. Here's the other interesting thing. Could you just solve your small forward problem for a decade and draft Joe Berry? Could Essendon draft Berry, match a bid on Keiko, and go, Nate Caddy, Keiko, Joe Berry. There is half of the forward six for our next tilt at the flag. And if you played Nick Martin forward of the ball, which you should do, there's 4 of your 6 covered beautifully. I kind of like that. No way Essendon should trade it, though. For Freo, of course, their first pick's going to be on the table. It's probably going to be for Shea Bolton. They're probably going to chase Chad Warner, as we know. But you got to go get the star now. Just go get Shea now. 9 is probably what it's going to cost. Probably, and 16 as well, maybe for something coming back, because players are in contract. Fans need to stop this whole, we need more or we need less. When they're contracted, you need to pay more. So it's going to be 9 and something, probably. Wrap your head around that however you want to. But it's definitely being traded. So, yep, tick, trade. See you later. Boring analysis for Freo, unfortunately. It's a little bit like that for Geelong as well, because their first pick, there is no way if Geelong, I want to make this perfectly clear. If Geelong come out of this off-season with Bailey Smith, Clayton Oliver, and their first-round draft pick, I will explode. Geelong, they're not keeping it. Their first pick's gone. Okay? It's not untouchable. Trade it. See you later. Same thing with Gold Coast. Pretty boring analysis, this one as well. It's going to be part of the Dan Rioli trade. Thanks for coming. Leo Lombard's going to end up at the Suns. Dan Rioli's going to end up at the Suns. Pick 6 is going to end up with Richmond. And I'll talk about what I think Richmond should do with that as a part of another team's analysis. So stick around for that, I suppose, but that's probably what's going to happen there. GWS, I am putting GWS's first pick firmly on the table here because I don't think they're going to let Finn Callaghan go to St Kilda. And whilst, yes, they're losing Perryman, Xavier O'Halloran is coming up in trade talks, James Peatling is coming up in trade talks, I'm not sure if replacing those guys with an 18-year-old is necessarily the answer. I would highly recommend listening to offers. I think St Kilda, I think Collingwood, North Melbourne are definitely clubs that could target GWS's first round pick. I'm putting it on the table. And if you get a good offer, take it. Especially if it's still an asset in this draft. And something for the future. I would do that. I really would. Hawthorns is pretty boring. They're trading it. It's ticked off. It's going. Bye-bye. Tom Barras for 13, probably Hawthorn's first round pick next year, and the Hawks will get a second rounder back. I actually think the haggling over this is going to be Hawthorn are going to want pick 23 from the Eagles, and the Eagles will probably want to give their 2025 second round pick. And this is going to be really interesting because West Coast need pick 23. Like, if they can come out of this draft with pick, I think it's 3. Well, it won't be 13 because of the Liam Baker thing, but stay with me here. If after the Barras trade, West Coast had a hand of 3, 13, 23, them and Hawthorn's 2025 first round picks, that's pretty good. Now, is pick 13 for Liam Baker and pick 29 on the cards? It seems like that's the case, so you're then going 3, 23, 29, and Liam Baker. Not a bad hand to have. You're also going to get Jack Graham for free, so that's pretty handy as well for the Eagles. But I actually think that second round haggling is going to take more time than maybe the two firsts, which is going to be pick 13. And Hawthorn are probably thinking pick 13 or worse, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 next year, which for Tom Barras, because the Hawks will have done their due diligence. That's what makes me laugh about this. Oh, he's injury prone. Look at his history. Yeah. And if Hawthorn thought that was going to be a chronic problem, they wouldn't be doing this. Rant over. Hawthorn are trading their first pick. I'll tell you who's not trading their first pick, though. Melbourne. Don't do it. Harry Armstrong could be the guy. If Oliver leaves, you're probably going to want to replace him with a midfielder. I think Josh Smiley at that pick would be elite for them in order to develop that hard nut. He'd be learning under Jack Viney. He wouldn't have to play round one because you think Viney, Petrarca, Rivers would be their preferred lineup. You could roll Judd McVie through there. You could roll Christian Salem through there, which they did from time to time throughout 2024. So you've got options, which is really good. You think Colton Tolstrup would be able to roll through there, probably taking over the Alex Neil-Bullen role, to be perfectly honest. Windsor wouldn't because he'd stay on a wing. Melbourne just need to keep that pick. And whatever pick they get for Clayton Oliver, if he goes, keep that as well. Do everything that you can. It looks like they're going to sign Tom Campbell as a ready-to-go ruckman now. And they've got Jeff White's son coming next year. So their ruck stocks actually look not awful. Not great, but not awful for 2025. But no, they need to keep it. Alrighty, North Melbourne on the table in a massive way. Pick 2 for pick 6 and pick 9. Pick 6 for Daniel Rioli. So the Richmond deal. So go to Richmond and give us pick 6. And pick 9, which was the first thing they got for Shea Bolton, you get pick 2. Now, why would North do this? Luke Traynor and whoever they want at 6. Right? I know they're going to get Darling and they've got Parker, but could you then go Traynor at one end, Harry Armstrong at the other? That would help. Clarko, when he got to Hawthorn, his first draft did Franklin Roughhead. He wants tools. So Armstrong and Traynor make a lot of sense at 6 and 9. A ridiculous amount of sense at 6 and 9. Why would Richmond do this? Daz, in such a deep, deep draft, why would you do this? You get to pair Jagger Smith with Finn O'Sullivan. Guaranteed. If you're undecided on which one you should take at 1, who cares? Take them both. And there's the start of your midfield. Them and Kane McAuliffe. There's your next generation midfield. And then from there, you'll be able to branch out. At pick 13, which will probably be on the table for Liam Baker, you would look at your Daniel Rioli replacement. Could you get Toby Travalia? Would you look at a Lockie Jacques later in the draft? Of course you would. Richmond's possibilities are endless here. Now, again, Richmond fans, if you hate the idea of 6 and 9 for 2, I get that. But remember, this is North Melbourne's segment bit here. It makes so much sense for them to do. Pick 2's on the table. They want to move down. They do. Port Adelaide, again, don't have a first-round pick in the deal with Fremantle, so hard to say about theirs. I'll just say it's on the table because every pick past 30 basically is. They could end up with Carlton's pick 11 in the Dan Houston trade. If that's the case, I think they just go for either Toby Travalia and just get themselves sorted in that way. Or they could target, say, a Xavier Lindsay, and maybe he and Will Lorenz are going to be your wingmen of the future. That also makes a lot of sense, but I don't think they're going to expand on their midfielders considering the depth that they've got there. Yes, whatever you think of their finals performances, that midfield, you're not really going to draft an 18-year-old and go, right, Butters, Rosie, Drew, Wines, Horn Francis, plus this 18-year-old at pick 11. They're not going to do that. They might take one later in the draft. I don't think they're going to do it at 11. It would make no sense. Joe Berry would make sense. I still think they're a small forward short outside of Willie Rioli. But I think, yeah, Port Adelaide, if they get pick 11, becomes a whole lot more interesting. And sure, we'll put their pick on the table. Richmond are not trading pick 1. All right, on to St Kilda. They're not trading theirs either. I don't understand what they would do this for. Christian Petrarca. Yeah, but I don't think Petrarca wants to go to St Kilda. He wants to go to a club bigger than Melbourne. Is there a whole lot of evidence that says St Kilda is bigger than Melbourne? I don't think so. Therefore, why would he do it? Probably doesn't. So, don't think it's going to end up there. I don't think there's another player on the market outside of Finn Callaghan who they're chasing that pick 7 would be worth for. I don't think Finn's going to end up at St Kilda here. If he does, pick 7 would absolutely become on the table. But in terms of what we know at the time we're recording, I'm keeping it off the table, absolutely. Murphy Reid, I know he did his leg. That's going to suck. We've talked about Sam Lawler already. He's definitely someone that is on the table as well. So, a midfielder. Xavier Lindsay, someone that could come up here. If Josh Smiley is still on the board, do you want to do that as like a taller Jack Steele type of operator? Could be there. But the Saints have got more healthy and beneficial options, I think, at their pick than a realistic trade could come up for it, unless it's Finn. But I'm saying no. On grand final eve, I would have said absolutely Sydney should be looking at any means necessary to try to get maybe more assets, future assets, anything like that. They've got their 2 picks. It'll either be 17 or 18. Of course, as we know, it is 17 now. And they've got pick 19 for the Dylan Stephens trade last year. So now you're looking at it going, no, I'm not trading pick 17. 19? Absolutely on the table. 17? Nah, tall forward. Tall forward, you need it. Jack Whitlock. Do it. Yeah, the tall forwards didn't work on grand final day. And you've had 2 shockers in a row. And you're not, again, kind of like Port Adelaide, you are not going to get an 18-year-old to upset the apple cart that is that Sydney midfield. Heaney, Warner, Goulden. I don't think Chad Warner's going anywhere this trade period. And then you've still got, Angus Sheldrick, who's waiting in the wings. We'll see what Caden Cleary will be able to do as his career develops, those kinds of things. So, yeah, it would be silly for them to take a midfielder at 17. They need to take a tall. Defender or forward, I don't care. Take Matt Whitlock. Pick whichever end of the ground you want to put him at. At 17, 19, take Jack and Matt. See how that goes. That works. Don't trade 17. You need it. I know it. You know it. No tall forwards coming to Sydney. Logan McDonald's re-signed for another 4 years. Don't do it. West Coast, not for a player. If the trade down happened, if Richmond said, we could do 6 and 9 for 3, that would certainly be worth looking at, I think. But again, you're going to end up with Jagger, Harvey, Finn, or Sid. I just don't think a team like West Coast, even though they're going to get Jack Graham in, but half forward. Liam Baker, probably half forward. Can roll through the midfield a little bit, can go to halfback a little bit. Your more utility player, Ruben Jinby, who, unlike what Josh Jenkins thinks, actually looked good down back to end the season. We'll go down there, but you've got Elijah Hewitt to roll through that midfield. You've still got Harley, you've still got Tim Kelly, you've still got Elliot Yeo. You get that next youngster in there. Devon Robertson could probably be on the way as well for some midfield time. That makes a lot of sense. Just take whichever one's available and you like the most and move on with your life would be what I would say there. And for the Bulldogs, who, again, interesting, don't have their first round pick because of the trade up for Riley Sanders. That's why Gold Coast have got pick 12. They're going to be really interesting because, again, their first pick in this draft, I think, is 32. No one gives a shit about that. So, sure, let's put it on the table. The more interesting discussion is the first round pick that they get from Geelong. What would they do with that? Now, I definitely think looking at the outside is going to be good for them. You look at, say, the wing position. So, could a Xavier Lindsay open up some opportunities there, who I think's got some really good potential on the outside of the contest? I think he's someone that they can absolutely look at. At that pick, I wouldn't mind if they went a little bit early on someone and look at a Lockie Jacques, for example, coming off the halfback flank. Yes, halfback may not be a position of need. Could they go the young key defender position? But they've got O'Donnell. They haven't really tried Buzzlinger yet. Would getting a Matt Whitlock or a Harry O'Farrell at that point be what they're going to do? I doubt it. But when they get that pick off Geelong, I don't think there's a chance they trade it. So that's where your club's first pick stands, along with some rantings, ramblings, and all those good things that make you guys watch. Apologies for a bit of a block nose at the moment, but hopefully that should be gone sooner rather than later. If you like the video, subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. The last 2 months have been amazing. I know I did it in a community post as well, but I just wanted to say a massive thank you. These last 2 months have been absolutely incredible. Over 650 new subscribers in the last 60 days is just genuinely bonkers, and we are nowhere near done in 2024. And an announcement is coming. If you're watching this before Friday night at 6 o'clock, there is an announcement coming. The official decision of the second chapter of the Daz Talks book, the second fragment of the Daz Talks empire, is launching on November 1st, but you're going to get all those details on how to subscribe and, of course, what the hell it is. Friday, 6 p.m, which will be in the community tab, and I'll be putting it in some videos just to get some hype up, because I am so excited for what that is going to bring. I'm so excited for what the draft is going to bring, the trade period, and all the off-season stuff, and I want to get you involved in a video. How's that for a tease? I hope you're enjoying your working week. If you're watching this pretty soon after it's coming out, it's the middle of the week, and I hope you are having an absolutely fantastic time. If it's your birthday today, happy birthday. Hug your loved ones, guys. They deserve it. So do you. Have a good one. See ya.